Today, on this episode of The Crossover, we will be discussing inside the mind of a mafia gangster with former notorious American mobster and underboss of the Gambino crime family, Sammy the Bull Gravano. Learn the inner workings of the largest mafia ring in U.S. history, how they operated, and what their motivations were. Much more on this episode of The Crossover. Good afternoon, everyone. Got a controversial one today. Going to be talking with Sammy the Bull Gravano, notorious mobster and underboss of the Gambino crime family. Hey, Sammy, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Listen, man, it's great to see you back, and I'm glad that you could join us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Awesome. I'm going to do a brief introduction just while everyone's logging on. We have the pleasure of speaking with Sammy the Bull Gravano today. He is a former notorious American mobster and underboss of the Gambino crime family. He was born in 1945 in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and he fell into crime at an early age. The story was he was 10 years old. His bike was stolen by a group of older bullies, and he fought, quote, like a bull, as seen by mobsters who were watching him. At the age of 14, he joined the Rampsters and drifted into the Costa Nostra, eventually becoming part of the Gambino crime family and elevating to the position of underboss over time. Later, Sammy pled guilty to a superseding racketeering charge. After 11 months alongside Gotti in prison and a total of 23 years in the mob, he decided to cooperate, formally agreeing to testify in 1991. He was released from prison in 1994 and entered the Federal Witness Protection Program. In 1996, Sammy co-wrote a book about his life called Underboss, and he began living openly and appeared in a nationally televised interview with Diane Sawyer. Currently, Sammy lives in Phoenix, and he's working on several media projects. I'm really excited to talk to him today about inside the mind of a mafia gangster. I think it's going to be very revealing. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Sammy.
It's my pleasure.
Well, let's just jump right into it. You know, a lot of people have heard the term and they use the term, but they don't really understand what is the mafia, how does it work, and what was your role as the underboss of the Gambino family?
Well, the mafia, first of all, is it's a secret society and a brotherhood, and you take a blood oath and you join it. And the mafia originally started in Italy, Sicily only. And it expanded in Italy, all over the place. But it was an organization that started to protect the people from invaders and to protect their people. And it was a brotherhood, and it became a secret society. It started in Sicily, and Sicily only. It spread all over Italy. Then it migrated into the United States, especially during World War II. And they had that same thinking, and it came here and it grew, and it became part of the United States. It went to other countries as well. And it was embedded in every part of society in this country. Everything you could think of, they were involved in, whether it was unions, whether it was casinos, gambling, and everything. They originally started most of these things. They were big in construction, and in the market, clothing. A lot of the Italian women who came here, they were all seamstresses. They seemed to all know how to sew and stuff like that. So they were in a lot of stuff, a lot of industries. And that's how it all started, and that's what the mafia was. It's actually part of America.
Now, what about your role as the underboss? Just give us a brief summary of what that entailed.
Well, a brief summary of it: there's a boss of a family, the underboss, which is his right-hand man, and carries out, whatever the boss wants. There's the consigliere of the family. It's almost like having a lawyer. He knows Cosa Nostra, how it's supposed to be run. He sits with other families for different problems. They call that the administration. Under that administration, there's captains. Each captain has a crew of made men, and he's responsible for those men. The made men have people who are associates who are not made members, and that's the way it breaks down into the mafia itself.
Now, take us through the typical day or lifestyle of a mafia gangster. People, again, have seen it in movies, but just take us through the average day, average lifestyle.
Well, we get up just like everybody else. We go in. We're involved in a lot of different businesses. I was involved in a lot of businesses, construction business. People are in restaurants, bakeries, you name it. We're in it in some point or another. Different people. It's not organized. People just get involved in different things. Now we help each other in these businesses. Hits come up mostly within us. We don't go out with legitimate people, men, women, or children. We do not kill. There's rules in the mafia. When you take the oath, you understand the rules. If you break the rules, certain rules, is a death penalty. And that's what creates a hit. And they pick who's going to be on that hit. You can't refuse the hit. If you refuse, when you're chosen by the administration, you could be killed. So that's where the murders come in. You know, Goodfellas and Godfather, a lot of them have a lot of reality involved, but it's Hollywood. They blow it up. It's not exactly like that, but it is. You know, they run around, they got girlfriends, they're married, they got girlfriends, they call them gumadas, and they drink and they gamble, and they're criminals. So, and they hang together, they're in this brotherhood. So a lot of those things are part of reality, but I think, you know, highly exaggerated in the movie.
Now, so I want to get into what really matters. I think people want to hear about kind of your mindset, which is what I wanted to delve into. You know, you confessed to being involved in 19 of these hits, many of these people very close to you. Take us through justifications in your mind for these decisions, and do you feel remorse?
Well, the justification is that you broke the rules, whoever it was, and they generally use someone who's close to you to make the hit easier. Somebody around you is close to you. He knows that he's got the hit or he's part of the hit, and he may have to bring you in. He's sucking you into this meeting. It makes it easier, and it makes it quieter, and they're not going to put the rest of society at risk. And that's the way it goes. I mean, it's just the way it is. As far as remorse, you know, I do have remorse, but I understood the people who broke the rules. It was their fault. There's nothing I could have did about it. You know, I almost blamed them at a point. You know, if a person was a friend of mine and he broke rules, he knew that he would potentially be killed if it came out, whatever he was doing. And I would be called because I was his friend or somebody else was his friend. And I actually blamed him. It put me in a position that I would have to do something like this. So I was actually mad at him in a way. I didn't gloat over it. I wasn't happy about it. It wasn't something that was good. It's never a good thing. I saw the damage on a person. When you're dead, you're dead. It's over for you. But I saw the damage it did to families and friends and loved ones. And even the people who were involved in the murder could suffer from this event. We're not, you know, serial killers that we would want to kill somebody. We have a desire to do that. This is our job. I'm sure that in the military, I trained in the military. I went during the Vietnam War, and I was trained to kill. I had that same mentality. If I was sent to Vietnam, I would kill. They were the enemy. They were going to come here. They were going to rape us. Everything was going to come. Communism was all bullshit. But but you have that same mentality. Now, I would have not been happy going there, killing people. I never went overseas, but you were trained for that. You understood it. It was part of the life. Now, some people in the military maybe enjoy doing it. Most of them didn't, I'm sure. But it's part of what happens. I'm sure that there's cops who have to shoot somebody in a robbery or something, and they're not all excited about it. Some of them go home and they feel some sort of guilt or some sort of way, but they adjust to what it is. The mafia is no different. And we had people who became serial killers. So every group has rotten apples in it, and the mafia is no different.
Take us through, what is the number one rule that is broken that leads to a hit? Was there one rule that just people frequently broke?
Well, betrayal. When you cooperate, you would be killed. If you went with a maid members, you knew the maid member, he's your friend, and you went with his wife, you were finished. If they found out about it, you were dead. No questions about it. Now, the reason being that we're brothers, so your wife becomes my sister-in-law. Your children become my nieces and nephews, not publicly, but privately. That's the way we have to feel, because we're brothers. So when you break certain rules like that, if they make a rule, no drugs. In Gambino family, Paul Castellano put a rule in, you deal drugs, you die. So if a guy's running around dealing drugs, there's a good chance he's going to get killed. Now, do we feel sorry for him? In a way, but, you brought on this thing to yourself. There's a lot of ways of making money. You don't have to do that. If we don't hurt people's families, we don't kill women or children. If you do something like that, we're against it. And there's guys, like I said, that would cross the line and become a serial killer. Now, if we started to understand that this guy's killing people for no reason, or he's enjoying it or whatever, we wind up killing him. If a guy is a rapist or a child molester, we would kill him. So there's a lot of rules that you can break, but and you don't have to be a made guy to break those rules. If it was a serial killer or a child molester or a rapist in our neighborhood and we were aware of those people, even though they weren't in the mafia, we would kill them. So killing is a big part of it. A lot of the mafia guys ultimately did murders, so they're killers. How do you control hundreds of killers? You control that with rules that if you break these rules, you're going to die. If you don't have certain rules, then you're not going to be able to control them. It's just like what's going on in society today. Let's get rid of cops. We hear that often. Without cops, there'll be total chaos. So without rules in the mafia, there would be chaos within the mafia. How do you stop these guys who are, most of them are fearless and they're dangerous? So they have to live by some sort of a code, or you could never control them.
That makes sense. I mean, the way you put it there, I don't think anyone's really heard that perspective, and I think it's fascinating to hear how your mind works. And along those lines, do you feel like, based on your history as Underboss, do you feel that your mind works differently than the average person?
Yes, I do. When I'm in business, I was in business in the mafia and out of the mafia. And when I look at it business in a whole different way. I understand the street part of it. There's a guy who graduates college, Harvard, I'll use Harvard as an example, or any big college. and they look at business a certain way. I look at business in a whole different way than they do. I look at it how my people, employees, I don't even call them employees. I call them my team. In the street, they were my crew. This life, they're my team. How to deal with them, how to bring them together, how to make them loyal to my business. Now, there's a lot of corporations, there's people who work for them. They don't make big money, and the corporate people make the big money. They can't really bring these people loyal to them. I'm not greedy or selfish, so I'll give up a piece of something. An employee will do something, they'll have a salary, they'll get bonuses or certain things, so they have an incentive to work. A lot of corporations don't think like that. A lot of businesses don't think like that. And so I look at business in a whole different way. And I think it's to my advantage.
You know, one of the things that you've done recently is you started a podcast that's called Our Thing, and it's very unique to the podcast space. Just give our listeners a little idea of what they can expect if they join it.
Well, you know, I have a good memory. I was dyslexic as you know all my life, and I think that when there's something that you lack, whether it's eyesight, hearing, I'm dyslexic, so you develop other things. There's a lot of people who's dyslexic and they're creative. They're good at art. They're good at certain things. My memory, it's like a steel trap. I remember things like most people don't. And I think it's part of when I hear something or I see something, I can remember it. So when I talk about a story about a guy who's going to get hit, I may talk about him. I may talk about what the weather was like. I'm talking about something that happened 30 or 40 years ago. What color shirt he had on, or what the conversations were exactly. I don't know why they stick with me like that. And so telling a story, and a lot of times when I tell a story, I can't read it. I can't, write it down, make it up, and read it to the public. It's not like a book. It's just coming from my heart and my head. And a lot of times I become a little emotional. I don't know, maybe it's age now, but I become emotional because when I'm talking about it, I actually relive it. I can see the person's face. I can know exactly what happened, and I'm talking about it, and I'm reliving it to a degree where it really started to bother me, and sometimes I get a little emotional, I get a little choked up. I did a story about Johnny Keys. It's a tremendous story where actually I'm in a contract now. We're going to make a movie about it. I got people who bought it. We're in process. I got script writers writing it, and it'll come out maybe in a year from now. But that story really blew me away. If people want to listen to that story or when it comes out in the movie, we were like two samurai soldiers that met on the battlefield. And he was older than me, much more experienced, super dangerous. I was younger. I was already a little dangerous. And I wound up getting him in a van. And he actually felt like a samurai that he lost. But he wanted to die with honor. And he almost welcomed it. And he was teaching me things as we were together. We were together 13 hours in a van together. And this guy taught me a whole different way of Cosa Nostra. And, I talk about it in the movie, The Godfather, when Michael goes into a room and he's talking and there's a bunch of gangsters around him. His door is open, his wife is looking in, and then the door closes. The door closes on him because the door closed on the rest of the world, and he was 1,000% Cosa Nostra. And this hit for me, I think, did the same thing. The door to the outside world closed, and I was 1,000% Cosa Nostra. This guy taught me how to die like a man. I still don't know if I ever had the nerve to die like he did, with the honor and everything. So Cosa Nostra has so many different ways of thinking and talking. There's so many lessons I've learned that treat me well in family life, around to people, especially now that I'm doing this podcast. I have thousands of people who send me messages, and I'm giving them advice. Now, I'm not a psychologist or a doctor or anything like that, but I understand their problem through so many things I lived through in life, and I'm able to give them advice, even on the podcast. And I think that's why my podcast grew. I don't lie, I don't exaggerate, I say what it is. I say about the good things I was involved in, the bad things, and certainly the ugly things. I don't hold back, I talk about them. So I think my podcast blew up. Right now, I think we're at 526,000 subscribers, and I think we have 87 million views. And so everything is working out. And I think they know when you're telling the truth and lying, because there's a lot of people talking out there on different podcasts about gangsters and about the life. And I know it's bullshit, but actually the people actually it resonates with them. They can see it. They can feel it. They know the guy's lying, and he can't grow. So I think that's part of, if you're going to come out, you got to come out and tell the truth and talk and be honest about what it was about. So, I got into, I'll tell you a quick story, is that while I was in prison, I spoke with a psychologist. I got a history, so they want to talk to me. And in the conversation, I says, anybody could kill. And she said to me, no, I can't kill. And I said, are you married? She says, I asked the questions. I said, well, you got to answer my questions as well. She said, yes, I am married. Do you have kids? She says, yeah, I have 2 little girls. So I said, if somebody grabbed one of your girls and raped that kid and beat it to death and got caught, he faces trial, death penalty, but there's nobody who would pull the switch or press the button to kill him. And pretty soon he'll go free. Would you allow that? She says, oh, absolutely not. I would pull the switch. I would press the button. There's no ways about it. So under a certain condition, you can kill. If people were going to protect their family, there's women who never kill. Try to play around with their kids in a certain way. And if they have a weapon or to protect their kids, they can kill. It's not that they're killers, but they can under certain conditions. That's what people have to understand about the mafia. Everybody in the mafia can kill. Do they want to kill? No. But under certain conditions and for certain reasons, they do. Same with the military, same with cops, same with a lot of people. So that's the way I look at it. So do I have remorse? I feel pain, not remorse. I feel pain for some of the people who died. It bothers me. I loved some of them, not the ones that I was involved with. Some of them I love too. But that's what I feel, pain, not remorse. They died for their reasons, for what they did, not for what I did. I pulled the trigger, but they made the whole chain reaction happen. Oh. I don't know how that's going to sound, but that's the way I look at it. It might be for remorse. I don't know.
I mean, I think that's an amazing way to kind of rationalize it. I don't think many people have put themselves in your shoes. And for people who haven't listened to your podcast, whoever's listening now, Our Thing by Sammy Gravano, amazing, vivid, detailed stories about his history, bringing you back to those times, and everyone should really tune in. Sammy, tell us what you're trying to accomplish at this stage in your life. You talked about your podcast. You have a movie coming out. What are your goals now?
Well, my goals are I would like to, I left the life, I cooperated, as you said, and I changed my life. Now, on my tombstone, there's going to be a couple of things said. My history, like I said, I don't get away from it or what I did. It could be on there. And what I did in my second part of my life. Now, I think I'm helping people in certain ways. I don't go telling kids, don't do this. I'm not a goody two-shoes that goes. I tell kids, you want to be me, go ahead. I'm involved in 19 murders. I was shot 2 times, stabbed once. I did 22 years in prisons. If that attracts your attention, go ahead, be me. I think that reaches kids because it's real. More than somebody like me telling them, no, go to church, go do this, go do that. They'll say, he's full of shit. Why didn't he do that? So I tell them the truth. I work and I do some podcasts now. I talk about the country, what's going on. I talk about the fentanyl that's crossing the border in droves. Now I look at it and I say, as a gangster, I look at it and I say, the Border Patrol and everybody knows that it's coming over the border. The borders are wide open. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are coming across. They're not searching them. They're not doing anything. They could have diseases. They could have drugs. And they're coming across. Why wouldn't we close it? Why wouldn't the politicians close it? So I'm doing a lot of conversation, a lot of talk about that. To me, it's criminal. Now, I'm a criminal. When I see criminal things, I understand it, and I'm not going to be quiet. I talk about it. So I try to fight against it. My mother and father were legitimate people who worked hard all their life. My mother was a seamstress. My father, they opened up a small little dress factory. And I know what it is. I know that they were taken advantage of. I hate it. And so I talk about it. I talk about all these things. It's about my grandchildren. I look at the world now and I say, what are they growing up in? What's going to happen? What are they being taught in school? So if I think something is really screwed up and I completely understand it as a gangster, I will talk about it. I will talk about, I say, if there's politicians who are not closing the border, not trying to stop the drugs from coming in, vote them out. Whether they're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, get rid of them. If they're not fighting for you, why do we keep voting these people in? They're just as bad, if not worse, than me. I say that some of these people make the mafia look like Boy Scouts because they have no value for life whatsoever. I've seen these things with these injections that they gave out. I never got the injection. And I'm seeing now that people are dying or doctors are looking at them, doing autopsies and things like that. They're seeing things that they've never saw before in a body. People are doing autopsies. They're finding these clots of blood, all different kinds of things. And I think, the programs that I watched, they were high-level doctors. I don't think they're bullshit. And these things are happening. I heard one program saying that there was some young girls who died. And in their, I guess, vagina, wherever it is where they keep the eggs, I don't know about that. But there's something that formed in there that they've never seen before. So where is this all coming from? Is it coming from the injections? And if it is, are these people aware of it And if they're aware of it and so many diseases and things happened, then somebody should pay the piper. It's not just gangsters. These people should go to prison. So I talk about a lot of different things in life. Um, and I'm in a lot of different conversations. And that's what I'm leaving behind. I hope to take care of my family with some of these things, financially and in different ways. And when I talk about some of these things, I'm talking for my family, for my grandchildren that are going to grow up in this, and for every legitimate kid who can't fight back or can't talk back. I'm trying to talk for them. So that's what hopefully I'll be remembered as. I hope my grandchildren or great-grandchildren will turn around and say, that's really my poppy. That was him. He was a gangster. I know the whole story, but I know everything about him.
Now, let me ask you a question. How has the mafia changed, in your view, over the last several decades? Or has it? Is it still the same?
No. It's changed tremendously. I don't think they kill anymore. No, there's certain things they don't do anymore. They're thrown out of most of the unions and the rackets. They'll do smaller things. It's more of a secret society that is very limited in the crimes that they do. And I think they're smart about it. I don't know why they changed some of the rules. I do. I mean, they're taking less heat. They're not going to jail. The sentences were so huge that people were cooperating every other day. So not killing and not doing certain things is actually a smart move. You know, when you're killing people, you're going to take a lot of heat. And you're going to do long jail sentences. Some of those sentences is life without parole. You can't even get out of prison. So, I mean, they're changing the rules so that they can survive. And I think it's a smart move. And what happens is the government and the police themselves, they start to pay them no mind. They're bullshit crimes. He's a bookie. Who cares? And they'll go after gangs and criminals that are vicious, that they're killing and hurting innocent people, rape, all these other crimes. So they'll take the heat. These guys are sitting back, and it's a different world. It's when I was growing up, it was like the old West, the Jesse James days. Everybody was carrying a gun. It was a whole different thing. Bodies were all over the place. So it's quite different.
So, I mean, Hollywood's done a lot of movies on the mafia. Obviously, it's very intriguing for most of the general public. In your opinion, what movie depicts the mafia most accurately?
Well, there's quite a few of them. The Godfather, I saw that before I was made, I believe. And it wasn't a true story, but what they did is, the writers and everybody, they did a lot of research on 2 or 3 different families, and they combined it into this fictional story of this fake family. But it was based on a lot of truth. What really caught my attention is that the weddings, and that was like our heritage. The Italians were like that, how they talked and how their weddings were. And so there was a lot of truth involved in that. So it really was not true, but they were close to the truth. Goodfellas was pretty close. I knew that crew. I knew a lot of them. They were just like that. Of course, it was Hollywood. It was blown up a little bit. They always have to add a little spice to it. But that was pretty good. Casino, the way they killed them and buried them in the desert there and all of that stuff, that was all based on real truth. But of course, it's Hollywood, and Hollywood has done a lot of good work. The Sopranos, was based on a family in Jersey. It was done well. The people loved it. It's a combination of, it was based on a true story. It was very well done. Hollywood could sometimes do a great job, and that's what sells it. But a lot of them are based on a true story, and people really captures their attention. So they did some great stuff in The Sopranos when they made Tony Soprano's go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, whatever he went to. It was brilliant because it made the public understand he's talking to the psychiatrist talking to him. Now the people understood the whole thing. So they did it brilliantly. And that's what captured everybody's attention. You not only saw the movie, but you understood Tony Soprano, where he was, what he was thinking about, where he was coming from, and the people loved it. I liked it too. I only saw parts of it. Some parts I was out of prison. The other parts I was in prison. Some places showed it, some places didn't. So, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very well done.
So, Sammy, last question, because I know you're super busy. You've lived an extraordinary life. You've seen and done and experienced things that 99.9% of society will never even see or experience. If you could do it all over again, would you do anything differently?
Now, again, I want to be truthful. I would be in the mob again. It's part of my heritage. I believe in it. I think I'm a gangster right this minute still. But of course I would do things differently. I really would change a lot of things. I would, go back, and some of my friends who literally, what I would say, committed suicide by breaking rules, I would try to change some of their thinking. And, there's a lot of things I would have did differently, yes. But I have a lot of love and respect for the mafia. I really do. It's got its bad parts. I will not deny that. But they've done a lot of good for a lot of people. I was, close with a guy who was in the Gravano family, Anthony Spiro. He was the Consigliere family. The whole neighborhood loved him. They loved him, and he was a tough guy. But they loved him because he just helped so many people in the neighborhood. When we looked at the neighborhoods, this was our neighborhood, our people. I maybe could see your wife walking down the block. I don't know you. I don't know her. But she was protected as far as I was concerned. And the people in the neighborhoods loved us. For those reasons, you would hear, well, they killed themselves. But they're good for the neighborhood. I hear it now today from police, FBI, and friends who are still in New York and said, Sammy, New York was so much safer when the mob was run by you guys, because we wouldn't tolerate you hurting our people. We didn't hate you. We loved you. You were our people. So I love that part of the mafia, the family part of it, the consideration for the people who lived in the neighborhood. I was a kid. I was a tough kid with a bunch of guys, the rampers. A woman would come out 1 a.m. from an apartment house and scream down, get out, go home. And we would walk away and go in the schoolyard and, talk, and we didn't go home. Today, a woman yells down, go home, to a bunch of kids, they'll shoot at her. So the times have changed, so you can knock us as the rampers, we were tough, but we never did certain things, we fought, we beat each other up, but certain things were, I shoveled my house in snow. My two Jewish neighbors on both sides, my father would say they're working people, they're tired, they come home. Don't shovel just us, shovel those 3 houses. And I did it. And these are things I learned from my father or my mother, to care about other people, respect other people. So the mafia is not totally bad. There's bad people, and we do bad things. I don't consider myself a bad person, even with all that stuff I'm involved in. I'm a people's person. I love people. I respect people. But so I don't hate that part of my life.
Sammy, amazing interview. I just want to thank you, number one, for your time, because I know how busy you are, but really more importantly, letting us dive into your mindset about what it's like to be a gangster, what it's like to be part of the mafia. There's so much on TV, as we talked about, so much in Hollywood. People talk about it, people form opinions, they judge. Incredibly rare to get the mindset of someone like yourself who was intimately involved in all of those decisions. And again, thank you for educating us on what that was like. And for anyone who hasn't tuned into your podcast, Our Thing, Sammy Gravano, it's amazing. Multiple stories detailed through all his experiences. So again, Sammy, thank you so much. I would love to have you back on the pod sometime.
Well, it would be my pleasure. It was a pleasure. You're a great guy to talk to, and I felt very comfortable. And if I ever need a brain surgeon, I'm going to come and see you.
Here I am. Anytime, bud.
I hope not. Maybe we'll have a cup of coffee someday.
That sounds a lot better.
Yes.
All right, man.
All right.
Have a good weekend.